Good morning, everyone. My name is Suhitha OW, and I'm a senior and second-year student in ISM. Last year, I studied interventional cardiology under the mentorship of Dr. Potlory, but this year, I've decided to take a completely different route and study entrepreneurship. Senator Charles E. Schumer of New York once said that the most beautiful thing in life is to be able to find a job that you are excited to wake up for on Monday morning. But with entrepreneurship, you're not only excited to wake up on Monday morning, but you're excited on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and even Friday morning because you're able to commit yourself to something that you love so deeply. You're able to be your own boss. You get to report to yourself instead of a higher official, and you can make a difference, but more importantly, you're able to control the direction of your dreams and have the opportunity to make a name for yourself by developing an idea from scratch and making it reality. And also, when I was in 8th grade, I was able to be a part of the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, where I got to create my own business. So this kind of exposed me to entrepreneurship, and that's why I've decided to study it this year. So a little bit about myself before I begin my presentation. I live with my mom and dad, and I have an older sister, and my family is probably the most important thing to me because they always encourage me and support me to follow my dreams. And then there are my friends who always bring out the less awkward side of me, and they let me be myself. And everyone who knows me knows that I adore One Direction. Even though they're breaking up, they will always have a special part in my heart. So one of the first parts of our ISM journey is to conduct 5 informational interviews with professionals in our field of study. Just because of time, I'm only going to talk about 3 of the interviews that have been the most influential for me. So my second interview was with Mr. Joshua Meek, who I found by searching entrepreneurs in Frisco. His was the first name that popped up as being named Frisco's youngest entrepreneur of the year. So I asked my teacher, Coach Goff, to connect me with him, and I was able to set up an interview with him. And my interview with him was so motivating and inspiring as I learned about Mr. Meek's humble beginnings and how he grew up knowing that he didn't want to know where the next meal from his family would come from. So Mr. Meek went to college for a couple years, but decided that he wanted to put more effort into his businesses, so he discontinued college after a while, and he's now a serial entrepreneur. Throughout my interview with Mr. Meek, it was evident of how passionate and knowledgeable he was, and I knew that I wanted Mr. Meek to be my mentor, and I asked him to be my mentor, and I'm so glad that he said yes. My third interview was with Ms. Uma Datla, who started off as an auditing manager and now is the Chief Accounting Officer for Approach Resources, and was included in the 40 Under 40 list for Dallas's 2015 list. Ms. Datla told me about her story of how she had to really put herself out there to reach the position that she's in today. She moved from India to Paris, France to pursue her master's at the INSEAD School of Business, and really had to maneuver her way to get around and accustomed to the foreign culture. She really emphasized the importance of being proactive and putting yourself out there because your experiences are ultimately what make up who you are. And my fourth interview was with Mr. Yogi Patel, who is the COO of Newcrest Image, a company that constructs, manages, and operates hotels. Hearing Mr. Patel talk about hotels made me really interested in hotels and made me want to learn more about them. His knowledge and command for the hotel industry was something that I admired very much, and I hope to bring out that same excitement in others when I talk about my future career. And the thing that I liked about all my interviews was that I learned something completely different in each of these interviews, and I was able to learn about a different type of business. I originally went into the interviewing process hoping to learn about the different sectors of business and different professionals, and I'm really glad that I did that because I was able to gain exposure into the business field. So 2 of the major events that we have in ISM during the first semester is the Business Symposium, where we were exposed to a whole group of professionals that we had never known or anything, and we were able to talk to them and get to know about what they did, and it really helped us during the whole interview process. And the second event that we had was the Winter Showcase, where I got to talk to people about my original work and what I wanted to do and what I was studying, and it was really interesting to see what my peers were working on, learn a little bit about their topics. So once every week or every 2 weeks, we're required to do research and read articles about our field of study. And ever since I became interested in entrepreneurship, Elizabeth Holmes has always been a role model and a dream to me. The fact that she dropped out of Stanford University to follow her dreams is just crazy to me. However, her journey was not easy. She had to work for 10 years with no vacation, no social life, and she even lived in her parents' basement during these 10 years. And today she's created a billion-dollar company known as Theranos, and it's a device that tests blood with only a couple of drops of blood. And with her invention, she's completely revolutionized the medical industry and has made an affordable device for so many people. And her hard work as an entrepreneur has earned her the title as America's youngest female self-made billionaire. And the second entrepreneur that has really inspired me is someone that all of you must know as one of the main faces behind Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg. Reading the article about her made me feel even more inspired as I learned how she not only was there for Facebook and made it be where it is today, but how she raised her family and was there for her kids all the time, and how she was able to balance everything so well. And to be like her is like being Superman or Wonder Woman or something. And through all my articles, one that has stood out to me the most has been about the evergreen movement or evergreen entrepreneurship. And reading an article about it made me decide that if I do become an entrepreneur, I want to become an evergreen entrepreneur. So basically, an evergreen entrepreneur is one who avoids anything that could put the viability or longevity of their business at risk or undermine its purpose. They measure success by how well they deliver on their mission, not by the sale price, the IPO buzz, or an investor's evaluation. They're basically entrepreneurs who think of the long-term impact and of the people rather than focusing solely on generating revenue. And while it is really important to make money to survive in everything, evergreen entrepreneurs are able to distinguish the difference between making money and driving a business off of money. So when brainstorming of what to do for my original work, I decided to combine what has interested me the most in my research. So for my original work, I wanted to create a portfolio of evergreen entrepreneurship. I wanted to do research questions on why some evergreen entrepreneurs fail, why some succeed, and why evergreen entrepreneurship isn't as known to people. And I also wanted to focus on female entrepreneurs specifically because it is much harder for a woman to make an impact in the business field. So I wanted to analyze their journeys and see what made them stand out. So a little bit about my original work. I just wanted to share a few people that I studied, and the first person that I studied was Jessica Hurin, who is the CEO of Stella & Dot. So Stella & Dot is a company that focuses on the empowerment of women by creating an outlet of entrepreneurial opportunities for women. It's a social selling company that is based in San Francisco and has gained recognition for its amalgamation of e-commerce, social media, personal service, and passionate earning to create the ultimate home-based business for today's modern women. And today this company has launched over 5,000 careers and has grown by over 750%. And by reading about Jessica Hurin, I was able to learn about the concept of social selling, which is the process of helping social buyers become customers. And to do this, salespeople need to learn new ways to research prospects through their own social networks, to create and share valuable content, and ultimately to grow their personal brand. And I thought this was really interesting that this company was based off of empowering other women while combining ways that you could sell products and create jewelry and everything. And the second set of entrepreneurs that I researched was a duet, who are Haley Barna and Katie Beauchamp, who are the co-founders of Birchbox. Birchbox is a company with the mission to make buying products easier to consumers. Birchbox sends monthly deliveries of boxes filled with samples of new beauty products, and these boxes help consumers find products that they actually like to use without having to go out and spend all their money and trying a bunch of different things. So over the past few years, they've reached over 44 million consumers, And the third entrepreneur that I want to talk about is Mark Nager, who is not as popular in the business field, in the entrepreneurial world, but he is the CEO of Startup Weekend. And Startup Weekend is a nonprofit organization that hosts events and allows developers and designers and marketers to come together and share their ideas. The company creates an outlet for these individuals to form teams and build products to begin startup within 54 hours, within the time of a weekend. So this company started off as a for-profit, then a nonprofit, and now it is a global organization. It exists in over 40 cities and has helped over 450 startup companies. And the thing about all these entrepreneurs that I research is that they are evergreen entrepreneurs because their companies have the ability to last a lifetime. They're not just companies that are based off of the new fads or something that is only going to be there for a couple years. So that's what I found really interesting about this. And so after researching these entrepreneurs, I decided that I wanted to add more to my original work, and I wanted to find an issue that I wanted to take part in and that I wanted to solve for my original work, or for my final product. So I wanted to start off by telling a little story about how I came up with my issue. It was the winter of 2012 when my family and I traveled across the world to India to indulge in the vibrant wedding merriments of my cousin. It was a time to celebrate the unity between a man and a woman with festive chaos, singing and dancing, and cheering on the bride and groom in playful wedding rivalries. However, as I walked out of the airport in Hyderabad, I was greeted by a much darker and disturbing type of demonstration. Protest signs were written in crimson red, and enraged youth mobs and every news crew ranging from CNN to the local TV9 News had lined the streets, all with fury over India's latest tragedy. I quickly made out what the outcries were over. It was on sexual abuse against women. The entirety of our trip to India that winter was marred case after case on these atrocities being shamelessly committed of women across the nation. And one of the largest cases to erupt surrounded a 23-year-old woman named Nirbhaya by the Indian public, who had been gang raped by 6 men on a bus in such a brutal manner that the woman's inner organs had become exposed and were dangling outside of her body before she was inhumanly disposed out of the bus after the urges of the criminals had been satisfied. This case ignited the attention of the entire world, yet we have not seen a decrease in the rate of incidents of rapes in India. That's when I adamantly decided that I was going to join the cause and take action to improve women's safety. And when people ask me why this issue is so personal, I'm compelled to ask why, how is it not personal to everyone? All of us have a Nirbhaya in our lives. My family and I may live across the world in the U.S., but I see parallels of her and my big sister, a young working woman in a busy metropolitan city who frequently uses public transportation for work, school, and fun. But the difference is how fortunate my sister and I are to be able to travel outside and alone without the fear of being harmed due to our immediate access to security, whether it's the police at every corner or easily accessible panic buttons in public areas. Now, although sexual abuse can happen at any time and at any place, the environment that I live in gives me the security that I want, and every girl to be given, and I want every girl to be given that same sense of security. So I'm currently working with India's pioneering GPS mapping company, Map My India, and an MIT-trained engineer to develop a prototype of an emergency alert device which I've designed. With this wearable device market gaining rapid momentum and women's safety becoming a primary policy under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I hope that our product OW, which is Sanskrit for fearless, can provide women in India easy, instantaneous, and reliable access to local authorities at the simple touch of a button. In the words of Lao Tzu, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. There is a long way to go before we end sexual violence against women, but this device will be my first step in tackling the issue. So here I have a chart of how we'd want the signaling device to go out and how it would reach different places Right now we're hoping to contact 3 people through the device, and the first would be the police, the second would be 3 family members, and the third would be a media outlet so that it would actually gain attention. And as we go along, we keep getting new ideas. When I mentioned this idea to my mentor, he was wondering if maybe we could put in a taser with the device, and I thought that was a really great idea. I think the toughest part is actually carrying out this device and making it come to life. But when I told my mentor about my idea, the first thing that he told me to do was create a SWOT analysis, which is the first thing that any entrepreneur works on when creating a new business. So I created a SWOT analysis for my original work that I hope to create. And S stands for strengths. So the strengths of this device would be the number of lives it would save. 93 women get raped every single day in India, so this device would undoubtedly be helpful and would give females of all ages the protection that they need. The W stands for weaknesses, and while the device would be effective, there are several barriers that may get in the way of the product reaching its full potential. These include the amount of money that we would need to manufacture the product in bulk, and being able to properly communicate with officials to support the product, since we live in a completely different company. And I think another weakness would be the time, just because of how all these other companies are coming up with different products. And the O stands for opportunities. We live in the age of innovation and technology, and India is rapidly growing in the tech field. Launching this device would be the perfect because it incorporates technology as well as service. And the T stands for threats. And one of the major threats is time and our competition. There are already 3 other companies that have come up with a device that is similar to this. And one of them is called Cuff, another is Roar for Good, and the last one is Guardian Angel. And all these companies have already come out with their devices and are already up and running and have been successful. But the difference with mine would be that it would be more targeted towards the women in India. And another external threat would be the access to the signal, because not everywhere in India do you have cell phone towers and places that the device would be able to connect. So that's one of the things that we need to work on creating. So reflecting on what I've learned about evergreen entrepreneurship and how I want to help people with my product, I've reflected on this trip, and this has been the first time that a social issue has struck me. Ever since I've come back home, it's been at the back of my mind, so therefore I hope that I can work towards this issue and that this business can actually come alive. And I hope that for my final product, I'll be able to make a business plan for this, and that I will also have a prototype of the device that I'd like to use. And the quote that I've chosen to guide me throughout this year is that faith activates God and fear activates the enemy. And the reason why I chose this quote is because I feel like I've always been kind of scared to step outside of my comfort zone, but I realized that it's always better to put yourself out there and to be proactive rather than being mild and being too scared to put yourself out there and not knowing what could happen. And even if this business doesn't work out, I know that I'm going to learn a lot through the experience, so I still want to go through making the business plan and everything, and hopefully it does come to life. But thank you so much. That's it.